Hi everybody, my name is Danielle Nicole and today we are testing out some brand new Pat McGrath products from our 2022 holiday collection. Now I already reviewed a few of her other eyeshadow palettes, so today is going to be all about the cheeks. So the first product is the new Skin Fetish Divine Blush in the shade Nude Venus 2. And the second is the Divine Blush and Glow palette in the shade Divine Rose. Now there were actually two different Divine cheek palettes to choose from, but I decided to go with this one because I thought it would better suit my skin tone, but we will get into all of that in just a minute. So if you're excited to see how these products swatch and perform and enjoy the video while you're watching, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and let's get started right now. Alright, so the first product is the Skin Fetish Divine Blush in the shade Nude Venus 2. Can't believe I got that in one take. You guys, these names are getting longer and longer, but this is what the product looks like in the packaging. And here's what Nude Venus 2 looks like in the pan. Now I was really excited to test out this blush because it did appear to be a light pink shade, so hopefully this will work well for my skin tone. As always, look at how beautiful the imprint is on the blush. Now this blush retails for $39 US and you get 9.7 grams or 0.34 ounces of product. And the next product is the Divine Blush and Glow Cheek Palette, and I picked up the shade Divine Rose. It does have a magnetized closure and also cardboard packaging. I do find this a little bit difficult to open up. So here are what the 4 different shades of the blushes and the highlighter look like. Now this palette is equally beautiful, especially with the imprints on the blushes. Now the highlighter does appear to be quite shimmery in real life. Now the other thing I'm noticing is my camera is pulling the blush shades a little bit more cool tone than they're actually looking like in person. Now I decided to pick up Divine Rose instead of the other palette that she released, and that's because the other shades just appeared to be a little bit too deep and a little bit too maroon for my skin tone. Now I did mention this palette does appear a little bit more cool tone on camera than it does in person, but I do think these shades will work quite nicely on my skin tone. Now I do feel like with this palette you get a little bit more bang for your buck, so I'm not quite sure if the formula is the same as the single blush that we are going to test out, so we will see. But this palette retails for $62 US and the total weight is 20 grams or 0.7 ounces of product. Now I am getting this review up a little bit later than I would have liked, but you know with the shipping with Pat McGrath, sometimes it takes several weeks, and it did for this order. But that's okay, I still wanted to review this in case any of you were interested in picking up these items during the Sephora sale or any of Pat McGrath's sales in the future. Alright, it is swatch time. Now if I'm remembering correctly, I don't think this is a matte blush. I believe it is supposed to have a satin finish. So let's see how Nude Venus looks swatched out. So here we go. Wow, that definitely has quite a bit of pigment. Let me build this up just a little bit more, that way it's easier to see on camera. So I would say this definitely does have a bit of a sheen. There are no visible flecks of glitter or anything like that. And it almost looks like a light peach shade. Next up is the Divine Rose Blush Palette, and let's start off with the highlighter. Now, I did consider picking up the single highlighter that she released in this collection, but it unfortunately just appeared to be a little bit too deep for my skin tone. That's okay, I'm always happy when other people can get use out of deeper products. So once again, that's why I went with this palette instead. So the name of this highlighter is called Nude Nectar. So let's see what Nude Nectar looks like swatched out. Ooh, that has a beautiful sheen. Now that I'm looking at this highlighter swatched out, granted it is a heavier swatch, it still may be a bit deep for my skin tone, but we'll see. The first blush shade, Desert Orchid 2. Now I am curious if Desert Orchid 2 will work as a bronzer on my skin tone. It might be a little bit too peachy, but let's see what it looks like swatched out. Next shade, Divine Rose. Now I am actually really excited to have this palette in my collection now. I do have a few of Pat McGrath's blush singles, but I don't think I have any palettes like this. So I'm sure many of you have seen Divine Rose, but I have not, so I'm pretty excited. Ooh, that is a beautiful pink. Next shade, Peony Rose. I'm curious to see if this looks more cool toned or not once it is swatched out. There you go. Now it's kind of interesting because I was expecting these two blush shades to be very cool tone with how they look in the pan, but now that they are swatched out, yes, they do lean on the cool tone side, but I would say they're much more neutral. All right, and this last shade I am so excited for. This is called Electric Bloom. You guys, these blushes are so pigmented, so I am definitely going to have to go in with a light hand. These are beautiful. All right, so now that they are all swatched out, the first blush shade was the Blush Single in the shade Nude Venus 2. Next up, we have the Holiday Palette in Divine Rose. The highlighter shade, again, was Nude Nectar. The first blush shade is Desert Orchid 2, Divine Rose, Peony Rose, and Electric Bloom. Now, I have not read which shades are matte, which ones are satin. Just from taking a look at what I am seeing, the highlighter does look beautiful, you guys. There are no visible specks of shimmer or glitter, just pure sheen. Now, from taking a look at the blushes, the single blush, which again was called Nude Venus 2 right here, this one definitely has a satin finish. I can see a little bit of a sheen. Now, the last two blushes appear to be a matte, and then this first pink shade, I believe, is a satin. All right, let me wash these off and we will get them on the skin. I totally just stole some of my daughter's Halloween candy, so give me 1 second to finish eating that. All right, I am still eating the candy, but it's okay. We are going to get started. So what I'm curious about is if this shade right here, the one that leans a little bit more peachy brown, and again, this was called Desert Orchid 2, I want to see if I can use that shade as a bronzer. And I do have my trusty handy dandy Sigma switch that I will be using in between, and I also have a ton of microfiber towels. You guys, I cannot live without both of these, especially the Sigma switch. I think I only paid $18 for this, but it's perfect for going in between shades. You guys, I just dipped my brush in one time. I kid you not. Look at how much product is on the brush. I'm definitely going to have to tap this off. And what I also do sometimes is just on the lid right here, just kind of swirl it around. That way it mixes evenly and gets distributed through the bristles. So this might be a total disaster of a bronzer shade, but let's see. Keep in mind, I pretty much tapped off most of the pigment. I think going in with a light hand, I could definitely get away with it. Would it be my first choice for a bronzer? No, but I think it looks quite nice. What do you guys think? I don't know why in the monitor, it always looks like I have this stripe, but in real life, it doesn't look like that. So I'm not quite sure why. I am buffing it in, as you can see. All right, let me even myself out a bit. Definitely melts right into the skin. So even though it's not the perfect, ideal, cool tone bronzer like I typically like, I do like how it looks kind of higher up and back on the cheeks. I could see myself reaching for that. All right, let's do the forehead too. I'm sorry if you guys can hear the traffic going by. I live pretty close to the road, so not much I can do about that, so I apologize. All right, I like that. It might be a little bit difficult to see on camera, but just gives a nice kind of sun-kissed flush to the skin. All right, next let's go in with the Nude Nectar highlighter. I typically do apply my highlighter first before my blush. I think I learned that from Wayne Goss. Okay, wow, same thing, you guys. These brushes are picking up so much product. Now these are natural hair bristles, which is to be expected, but I just wanted to point that out. So let me tap off my brush. So when you guys tap off your brush, do you typically tap back off into the product? I know I just did it on the side because I'm filming, but I usually tap off the product back onto the shade that I initially swiped. I don't know if it does anything with saving product, but that's what I do. All All right, so let's see what this looks like on the skin. Oh my gosh, whoo! I don't think I tapped it off enough. Wow, look at that. That is immediate sheen. All right, I am so excited I decided to go with this palette instead of that individual highlighter. I just think that shade would have been way too deep, as I keep mentioning. So what do you guys think? Do you think it looks too deep for my skin tone? I think it kind of hovers on almost being there, but I think I can get away with it, but I'd love to know what you guys think. I mean, this is like a one swipe highlighter. Holy cow. Okay, so the one thing that I am noticing about this highlighter in particular, let me lift the palette up so you can see. It is very dusty. So can you see how much product it kind of kicks up in the pan? Now, the great thing is that does not translate on the skin. I think it looks beautiful, almost like glass skin, but it does provide just a little bit of kick up, so just wanted to mention that. I mean, with this highlighter, you just go boop, the tiniest little bit, and this brush is picking up a ton of product, so I'm probably applying too much, but I always like to try to apply more product when I'm filming, just because it's a little bit more difficult to see on camera than in real life. But wow, that is a stunning highlighter. All right, so next we are going to jump over to the blush single. I'm just dying to test this shade out. Now, I usually gravitate towards more light pink, kind of cool tone pink shades. So this one mentioned it was a peach shade. So this is completely different than blush shades that I usually gravitate towards. So let's try this one out next. Sonia G Detail Brush. I just gotta know what this looks like, if it is going to match my super cool undertone. Wow, same thing, you guys. Oh my goodness. The amount of product these pick up. I should have just went in once, but I went boop, boop, boop. So let me tap it off. All right, so let's do this cheek. All right, you guys. Yes, I have on too much, but this looks beautiful on the skin. I know it looks quite a bit intense because I picked up so much product, but wow, this is beautiful. Have you guys picked this blush shade up? And if you have tested it out, let me know if you like it or not. All right, so I can definitely understand why this blush is more than the others that are included in this quint. And I think that really comes back to the formula. This is such a beautiful satin finish. Even though I have a lot on, it blended beautifully and melted right into the skin. It's gorgeous. Well, I must say, never in a million years would I have ever guessed that I love a peach shade, but I definitely do. Did you guys hear that? Sound like a tapping. Is my house haunted? Anyways, what I was saying was I never would have guessed that I would be drawn and really enjoy a peach shade, but this is beautiful on the skin. I think because it's not too brown, it's not too deep. I would say this is probably more suited for fair to light and perhaps light to medium skin tones. So if you have a similar skin tone as me and you enjoy peach shades, this is a beautiful one. Love the shade, love the formula, the blendability, just everything about it, A+. So I completely forgot to mention, I haven't filmed in several weeks, you guys, so I apologize, my game is a little bit off. But what I want to do, because I don't have any eye makeup on, the only thing I had on was my complexion. So I want to dip back into this shade right here that I tested out as a bronzer. And let's apply that to the eyes. Sonia G Worker. I love using products in a multi-use way, if I can get away with it. So just want to see if this can kind of be a one and done lid color as I expect it to be. Let's put a bit on the lower lash line. All right, so I know that shade is not necessarily a bronzer per se, but there's just something about applying bronzer-like shades to the lids. I just think it kind of brings everything together, especially if you are doing a monochromatic look. So what do you guys think? I have to say, I do enjoy this shade on the lids. Let's put a bit of that highlighter on the inner corner. And then let's put a little bit of Divine Rose on the lids. You guys, look at how much product it picks up. I just cannot get over that. There's so much, so you definitely do not need to go in heavy-handed. I'm wearing a white shirt, so we'll see how that goes. All right, let me add a bit of the Tarte Tubing Mascara, and then we will finish up with the rest of the shades. All right, starting to feel a little bit more put together with some mascara and a little bit of eyeshadow on. So let's finish up with the rest of the blush shades. So let me see, which one do we want to go in with next? Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to dip into Divine Rose because although they are not the exact same shades, I am curious how it compares to the blush single. So let's apply that shade to the right cheek. Tap off my brush here. Yeah, this switch is amazing, you guys. I just love it. Interesting. I feel like this shade is just a little bit more bright than this one, which I wasn't really expecting from looking at it in the pan. That's pretty. I like Divine Rose. So what do you guys think? Do you like Nude Venus 2 or Divine Rose better? I feel like they look a little bit similar, but this one is definitely much more peachy, and this one has a hint more of that bright pink in it. Not that it is a bright pink shade by any means, but it just has a little bit more than I was expecting, especially when you look at it in the pan right there. It just looked like it was going to be a little bit deeper than it translated on my skin. All right, so I am out of cheeks, but it's okay. We are going to keep going. So we have the last two shades right here. So I think the more pink shade was called Peony Rose, and then we have Electric Bloom. So I already know, definitely going in with a light hand, or at least I'm going to attempt to go in with a light hand. So usually when I have these more bright shades, I probably wouldn't have two different blushes on already, but I basically apply them to the high points of the cheekbone. So let's try that. All right, so just be careful when you do dip your brush into these blushes, at least in this palette. I do find that if you press too hard, because this formula is just so soft, you really can put a pretty big dent and have quite a bit of kick up. So just go in like this, not what I did, and went boop. All right, so let's plop Peony Rose. Ooh, wow. Yeah, even that is way too much blush, but it's okay, you guys. It's for the review. That way you can actually see what these shades look like on the skin. Now, in a perfect ideal world, I would have went in with a very light hand and not all of these blushes on first. So I know it looks kind of clown crazy right now, but I do think this would look beautiful going in with a light hand. All right, you guys, don't laugh. I already know I have so much blush on, but just wanted you to be able to see what everything looks like. I actually don't think I picked up as much product as I did on this side. So let me grab just a teensy bit more. All right, here we go. We're about to be clown cheeks, but I want to see what they look like. That is beautiful. You know, I wasn't expecting to like this Electric Bloom shade quite as much as the other pink shades. Again, just because it's a little bit out of my comfort zone. But what do you guys think? Do you like Peony Rose or Electric Bloom better? Then I always like to take just a little bit across the bridge of the nose. It almost gives that natural sunburnt look, as I always say. But I like it. All right, let me take just a little bit of one of my favorite powdered foundations. This is the Essence 16-Hour Cover and Last, going back in with my Wayne Goss brush. And let's just add a little bit to kind of buff and blend everything in. All right, I do think that's all the skin needed, was just going back in with a little bit of that powder foundation to kind of blend everything together. Yes, I still have on a ton of blush, but I do think it looks quite nice now that everything is blended out. All right, so as far as my overall thoughts go, I am so happy I decided to pick up this blush shade. As I keep mentioning, peach shades are just not typically my jam, but I love this shade. I love the formula. It gives a nice, beautiful, luminous sheen to the skin. No visible glitter or shimmer, anything like that. Just kind of brighten up the cheeks. So 10 out of 10, love this blush. Now, as far as this palette goes, just because of the price difference. So with the blush single, this was $39, and then the palette was $62. And as I mentioned, I don't have any of Pat McGrath's palettes, so I wasn't really sure what to expect, but just because of the price difference, you get much more product in this palette. I just wasn't sure if the quality was going to be as good as these singles, but I do have to say, really impressed. The formula blended in like butter. I love all the shades. The only thing is, I think this highlighter still might be just a little bit too deep for my skin tone. But now that I'm saying that and I'm looking in the monitor, now that everything is blended together, I do think it looks quite nice on the skin. And you know, the one thing I really do like about this Blush and Glow palette, I do feel like you get a pretty good variety of different textures, different shades, and all of that. So you of course have your highlighter and then the 4 different blush shades, but then you also have a couple different mattes as well as satins, and these shades are all different. So it's not like in some palettes where all the shades look very similar. No, all 4 of these look very different on the skin. So I must say I am very satisfied with both of the Pat McGrath purchases that I made. Again, this video is not sponsored. I did purchase everything myself. So if you are interested in either of these palettes for whatever reason, I definitely do recommend them. The formula as well as the actual shades are incredible. Now, as I mentioned in a post on my community tab the other day, you guys, I have been going through quite a lot, both personally and professionally. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. I know I have not been uploading consistently. I'm trying to get myself back on track. We just have had a lot going on. So thank you so much for those of you that have been. And I am going to be filming a ton of other content coming up real soon. All right, well, I do hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you did enjoy the video, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Thank you all so much for spending your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye, guys.